How many of you know the story of this young guy, Jesse Van Rootselaar? This teenager unalived 8 persons, including his mother and his 11-year-old stepbrother, on February 10 this year, just few days to Valentine's Day. So this is what happened. This guy woke up that day and decided to cause his entire community pain. This is said to be one of the most deadliest shootings in Canadian history. Tragedy began at their house, where he unalived his mother and his 11-year-old stepbrother. Then he moved to a nearby secondary school where he unalived 5 students that were between age 12 and 13. And then he also unalived a 39-year-old education assistant before he now died from a self-inflicted injury. This teenager was born biologically male. She began transitioning to female approximately 6 years ago and was publicly identified as a transgender woman. But as far as I'm concerned, his spirit is male, his chromosome is still SY, so he's male. But let's continue the story. So Jesse Van Rootselaar's personal life was defined by significant instability and a history of mental health struggles. In fact, in 2015, a Supreme Court ruling described the life of this guy as nomadic, involving frequent movement between three cities, and this was due to the intense custody struggle between the mother and the father. So she was reportedly estranged from her father and did not use the surname. She dropped out of school 4 years ago. So this story goes a long way to show us how the wrong decision for two adults who claim to be in love can end up leading to raising a child that might become a disaster to the world. In the end, this teenager has become the victim of the poor decisions of his parents. You see it. There were also reports of this teenager using drugs some time ago, getting addicted to a certain game that was also very unhealthy and violent. If I'm to make sincere comments on this story, I would say that this forces uncomfortable but necessary questions to us as believers. The question is not only why did this happen? The deeper question is, what must we do now? There is the cry of a wounded generation. When young lives are lost in violence, it signals something deeper than one tragic decision. It reveals cracks in families, cracks in mental health systems, identity struggles, substance abuse, isolation, and spiritual emptiness. I know those of you that are in most part of Africa will watch this video now and you will say, well, now for a place, those things they happen, not go reach here. That was how we were saying it 10, 15 years ago when these people were beginning to change their gender and claim to be a gender different from their original or their natural gender. But now, as it not entered many of our streets, some of them are now even having thousands of followers on social media, and some of them are living close to us and we are not able to do anything about it. The Nigerian law that says 14 years, blah, 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 it looks as if it's not working because even those in power, some of them are implicated in the case. Let's leave all those ones. We are witnessing a generation that is battling identity confusion, psychological instability, substance-induced distortion, social isolation, and a loss of moral and spiritual anchors. The Bible says that the thief cometh not but to steal, to kill, and to destroy. We are seeing that destruction unfold in real time as we speak. This is not merely a political issue. It is not merely a mental health issue. It is not merely a cultural issue. It is a spiritual crisis that is layered with psychological and societal complexity. The church cannot be silent. When children die, the church must not just scroll past and assume, let's hope it doesn't happen again. We must not reduce tragedy to debate. We must not weaponize pain for arguments. No, we must not respond with condemnation. Instead, we must respond with intercession, compassion, and preventive presence. You must ask yourself, what am I doing now to make sure that this error does not repeat itself? And another thing that I want to say is that mental health is not a lack of faith. As believers, we must be mature enough to acknowledge that mental illness is real, trauma is real, depression is real, chemical imbalances are real, substance abuse can fracture perception and decision making. Most times in this part of the world, when somebody is having a mental health issue, we just automatically point everything to spiritual. It is not always spiritual. It can be real medical, and the church needs to accept that and do their part. Identity without Christ is fragile. I must say this. Many young people today, they are building their identities on shifting cultural narratives rather than on internal truth. We are watching what happens when a generation forgets its creator. That is what we are watching that is happening now. I saw a post of a woman, beautiful woman with a beautiful child, and she made a post. She was saying that the way she raised her children in their house, there's nothing like Jesus, there's nothing like God, that Africa will begin to grow better when I looked at this person and I looked at the person in pain. Why? Because this is pure ignorance speaking. The nations that you are envying today, go and see how they started. In fact, they started having challenges when they started removing God from the picture. We are watching a generation ignore God and think that they will survive. What should we do? It is a time for action. We must pray intentionally for schools and communities. We must support teenage mentorship and outreach programs. We must engage teenagers before the crisis point. It is not when the person has become depressed, you're not trying to fix the issue. Who is talking to them and with them when they are going through their silent struggles? Who cares? I was in a school last week and I spent some time having conversations with these young people in their number. And one of the things I wanted to do was to just listen to them. And when they were talking, I realized that nobody is listening to these young people. Nobody's listening to them. They are going through real struggles and nobody is listening to them. We all have a job to do. We must engage teenagers before the crisis point, and we must strengthen families. We must encourage families. Our academy is currently on where we train people for children and teens ministry. So in one of the classes, I noticed a recurrent complaint of children and teenage church teachers saying that their greatest problem are the parents. Isn't it funny that same parents who really want to raise their children godly, they are also the ones that are fighting those who have been blessed and equipped by God to achieve it? And I agree with them because I also had the same challenge. Parents, I can show you shots of my parents said I should not pray by this time. My father said I should not come again. And meanwhile, if it was a birthday, their parents will allow them. You usually look as if the parents are the ones that are pushing the children into immorality, into living a life that does not please God. It's a complex thing. And I think the main problem there is that many families are not strengthened. They are not strengthened with knowledge. They are not being taught the truth. So we also have to invest. We also have to invest in discipleship, not just attendance. Many churches are pushing for attendance so that the pastor can come up and say, I pastor a church of 1,500 people. Are you really pastoring those 1,500 people? Or you have a place where 1,500 people come and sit down? Are you really pastoring them? If you are to really check through, we need to go beyond just attendance to really invest in discipleship. We cannot keep on losing our young ones to things that could have been avoided. May we never get used to tragedy. May we never grow numb to young bloodshed. May we not become part of the problem. Instead, may we become part of the answer before the next headline breaks. God bless you. I do this kind of videos and more every time I am not busy on the mission field. The best way you can encourage me is by following this page, commenting on this video, liking and sharing the video. I will see you around.